Hey there, this is Andrew bringing you another Keyforge deck reveal and review, or I guess review really. This is going to be two decks that I ran at a recent Store Champs. It was a two-deck sealed survival at Ease Games in San Diego, well, Miramar to be more specific. And yeah, I just thought it'd be interesting to go through these kind of side by side. I did go through both of them. I had to play both of them. I did get first place, so something went right. I don't think it's entirely the decks. I think I get a little bit of the credit, although I do like these decks. But I wanted to kind of walk through them, what they do, and some of the things that surprised me in the ways they worked. Yeah, that maybe wouldn't be immediately obvious. So I guess it's just to be fair. There were only 12 people there, but it was a real fun time. Great people. I walked away with the second place deck, even though I got first place. I got the rest of the first place swag, but including the sleeves. But I have a first place deck, so I went ahead and just traded with second place for that. Anyway, okay. So the deck that I chose to go with first, that I thought was the not as good deck, is this one, Peterson Barracks Clause Regulator. It has Star Alliance, Shadows, and Brobnar. Notice both of them have Brobnar and Star Alliance. And a lot of players, I think, would see Brobnar and go, oh no, I've just heard so many people complaining about Brobnar. You've heard me complain about people complaining about Brobnar. Star Alliance is good. I would love to see Brobnar Saurian. I love that combo. But this is interesting. Brobnar, Star Alliance, and then one Shadows, one Dees. I think old conventional wisdom would say, well, Shadows is probably going to be the better deck on average. Yeah, but I ended up deciding to go with this one first, and I think that was the right call. By the way, I've heard people talk about, should you take your stronger deck in first or save it for later? And my logic that I've been employing and that's gotten me to first place at sealed survival events, but has gotten me first place at other survival events as well, has been that I want fewer opportunities for my better deck to win to lose to random variants. And yeah, I mean, you could still have the top, the finals and have lose to random, just bad draw, but I just want to reduce the number of times that I could get knocked out that way and put the lesser deck on the line. Okay, so without further ado, Peterson Barracks Clause Regulator, it's Star Alliance, Shadows, and Brobnar. We'll go with the Brobnar first. We have Alaka, 4 power giant with if you've used a creature to fight this turn, Alaka enters play ready. It's a good card. If you can have other Brobnar creatures on the board, of course. We have 2 copies here of Barn Raising, and this is an action that says for the remainder of the turn your opponent loses an amber each time a friendly creature fights. So obviously like a reverse War Song. And it's I like it less than War Song. For one thing, I think, and I've had this card come up in decks before, but I was really thinking about this. I think that War Song, it makes it worthwhile to trade your creatures, right? Because you're getting amber, so you don't care about reaping. But it also balances out the fact that Brobnar tends to have a few cards that are good at amber destruction. And if you can get War Song in there, then you're doing maybe you're fighting. I have a deck where I fight with Crumps, right? I'm fighting with Crumps, and I'm gaining from the War Song, and I'm making my opponent lose from the Crump. So you have that great swing. This is just more destruction, which unless your opponent has a really high amount can just be kind of weird. And I don't know. I think it's almost too much. Speaking of amber destruction, we have Berserker Slam. This is a great card. Get an amber, deal 4 damage to a flank creature. If the damage destroys that creature, the controller loses 1. You do have to destroy an opponent's creature for that, for it to take away from your opponent, and it does need to be a flank creature that you hit. But Usually if you have a couple Brobnar creatures on the board, you can orchestrate it to work out, and it's great. Okay, so this is my first anomaly that I've ever opened. Very excited about that. Yeah, it's the Grim Reaper. It's a 4-power robot specter with if you are haunted, the Grim Reaper enters play ready, and you are haunted if there are 10 or more cards in your discard pile. And after the Grim Reaper reaps, you purge an enemy creature and a friendly creature. And we'll come back to that because there's actually some cool options there if you play it right. Ganger Chieftain is a 5-power giant with play you may ready and fight with a neighboring creature. Gron Ninetoes is a 5-power giant who gets +4 power while it's damaged. Narp, 8-power giant with 1 armor, and its neighbors can't reap. I think one of these is fine. Shorty is a 4-power giant with Assault 4 and Reap Enraged Shorty. Yeah, it's a really nice creature. Skull is a 3-power beast with Assault 3, and after an enemy creature is destroyed by Skull's assault damage, you give a friendly creature a +1 power counter. I didn't get a lot of that triggering. Smith, gain an amber, gain 2 more if you control more creatures than your opponent. I was able to pull that off quite a bit. Nogi Smartfist, 5-power giant, and Scientist, fight, draw 2 cards, discard 2 random cards from your hand. Alright, so that's the Brobnar. It has decent board control. It's not huge, but the Shorty is really good, and the Shorty and the Skull together are really good for killing elusive stuff. The Narp can take on big stuff, so can Gron. Reaper just straight out gets rid of things, so that's nice. And you have some speed between Ganger Chieftain and Alaka. Stuff can come out quick. Yeah, again, the barn raisins I don't love, but that's okay. Alright, so yeah, let's look at the shadows now. So this is kind of crazy. We have 3 copies of Breaker Hill. And I think this contributed a lot to my decision to go with this deck first. I don't feel like this is a great position to be in, needing these to be your steal. You end up having to steal with creatures that maybe you'd rather do other stuff with. But we'll come back to it. Oh yeah, sorry, I should say what it is. Breaker Hill is a 1-power elf thief with elusive, and each of its neighbors gets action steal 1. Inky Gloom is an action that says your opponent cannot use creatures to reap on their next turn. That's really powerful. Javinda is a 2-power elf thief with elusive and reap. Deal 1 damage to a creature. If this damage destroys that creature, steal an amber. If you have 3 Breaker Hills on the board, then you might pull that off quite a bit. That's not so bad. Mug, gain an amber, move an amber from a creature to your pool and deal 2 damage to that creature. And it has been confirmed you first pick a creature and then you move an amber from that creature to your pool and deal 2 damage to it. You're not picking an amber, and people were confused about that. You're picking a creature and doing the stuff to it. Ronnie Risk Clocks, 2-power elf thief with play, steal 1. If your opponent has 7 or more, steal 2 instead. That's great. Trust no one, steal 1. If there are no friendly creatures in play, instead steal an amber for each house represented among enemy creatures. Max 3. 2 of those. This is generally a steal 1 because we have enough board control in here that it wasn't very common to be wiped. Chain Gang, 3-power elf thief with action steal 1 and shuffle Subtle Chain from your discard pile into your deck. After you play Subtle Chain, ready Chain Gang. And we did get a Subtle Chain. That'll come up in a minute. But, that'll come up and we'll talk about it. Skeleton Key is an artifact, an item with action. A friendly creature captures 1. That's fine. And yeah, Subtle Chain is an action, gain an amber, and your opponent discards a random card from their hand. So if let's say you start the turn with both these in your hand, you play the Chain Gang, it comes out exhausted. You play Subtle Chain, get an amber, knock a card out of your opponent's hand. Subtle Chain becomes ready, or Chain Gang becomes ready rather. Subtle Chain goes in your discard pile. Then when you action Chain Gang to steal, the Subtle Chain gets shuffled back into your deck. Now, currently, the ruling is the actions don't stack, so if you have Chain Gang next to Breaker Hill, you can still only steal one, but still a pretty good deal there. This combo is kind of fun. I played against somebody who had two of them, two of each, which seems real great, but I just got the one, and I'm happy with it. Okay. Yeah, so before we go through the Star Alliance, I just want to show you some interesting synergies that I guess I didn't see right off the bat, but ended up working out pretty great. Specifically with Breaker Hill and Brobnar, and I know it sounds weird, but what ended up happening was it was pretty common that I got into situations where I had real board control, and I'd end up having Brobnar creatures next to Breaker Hill. Well, if I don't need them for board control, then that turns, Ganger Chieftain into a Yancey Gang or Pit Demon, effectively, right? Suddenly, Ganger Chieftain can action to steal one, which is great. So I was doing some of that, and I actually a couple times was able to do this cool maneuver where I did, like, let's say action steal one with Ganger Chieftain, reap with Grim Reaper, purge an enemy creature, purge the Chieftain. Now suddenly it's Narp that's next to Breaker Hill, and Narp actions to steal one too. So you can get some cool stuff going that way. And again, if you have board control, then Breaker Hill kind of can synergize pretty well with it, because it turns your creatures that would have reaped into stealers, and that's pretty nice. Okay, so and we didn't have a ton of reap effects in here anyway, so we don't mind foregoing those and just doing the steal. All right, and then the Star Alliance just sort of caps it all off. We have Armsmaster Melina, who's a 4-power human with Hazardous 3, and she gives her neighbors Hazardous 3. It's a good way to continue exerting board control, protecting your stuff. 3 copies of Commander Chan is a little excessive. So Commander Chan is a 4-power human with Fight, Reap, use another friendly creature. If you have board control, then suddenly this is real good, right? You're just getting crazy value. So that definitely could work out pretty well sometimes, but it's also a little excessive. 3's a little much. And I really like all the play, fight, reap abilities that come in Star Alliance. I was bummed not to get more of those, to be honest. Light of the Archons is an upgrade with a bonus amber. It gives the creature +1 power and +1 armor for each upgrade attached to it. Red Alert is an action. When you play it, if there are more enemy creatures than friendly creatures, deal damage to each enemy creature equal to the difference. This didn't fire much. Science Officer Chincan is a 2-power alien, proximan, and scientist with elusive. And after a player chooses an active house which matches no card in play, steal 1. This can be really good early on. It turned out, once people have artifacts on the board, it tends to do less work. So I didn't get a ton of value out of it, but sometimes maybe you get this next to Breaker Hill, and suddenly you have an extra thing that can action steal 1 too. So there's definitely, it's good. I'm never sad to see this card in a deck. Speaking of cards I'm not sad to see, Stealth Mode is an action with a bonus amber. After you play it, your opponent cannot play action cards during their next turn. It's really strong. It's really good just game control. 2 copies of Zap, which is an action with a bonus amber. We deal a damage to a creature for each house represented among creatures in play. So potentially up to 9, I suppose, although typically like 3, 4, 5, 6. But if you have board control, you're probably getting 3 out of it, so it works pretty nicely. And because you can split this up, it's a really efficient way to deal with wards too. Then we have Stunner, which is an upgrade with a bonus amber, and it gives the creature Fight, Reap. You may stun a creature, more board control. And finally, and this one's pretty interesting, Operations Officer Ishii is a 4-power spirit with 2 armor, taunt, and each of its neighbors gets Fight, Reap, Capture 1. And this also turns things into more value, right? If you have Commander Chan next to Ishii, and suddenly you can reap with it, capture 1, and use another creature, and use Chain Gang, suddenly you have incredible value. So the crosshouse synergy that you end up getting with Star Alliance is pretty huge. And actually with the Breaker Hills, you're getting it from Shadows as well. And so this deck just kind of ends up, once it's on the board, it just starts doing stuff, and suddenly you're using everything. And it's pretty crazy. Yeah. So, and not to mention, it does have pretty good amber counts, like let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do we have a brew in there? 9. That's actually not very high. So, yeah, the raw, like, amber pips is not really high here, but because it establishes board control, it's able to just keep doing stuff. Oh, and if you count the steals, I guess we have quite a bit more than that. So, anyway, so this one went to 3, took me through 3 games, and then it lost the 4th game to the guy that I eventually had to face in the finals, and he was undefeated when we went into the finals, and I had to beat him twice with the next deck that I'll show you. So yeah, that was Peterson Barracks Clause Regulator. I think it was pretty good. Let's look at Liverbog now. So this next one is Liverbog, the Peacemaker Reaver. And that's interesting. Usually Reavers we don't think of as peacemakers, but this guy is a Peacemaker Reaver, and it's Brobnar, Dees, and Star Alliance. And yeah, I will tell you, I liked the Star Alliance better, and I liked the Brobnar better in this one compared to the other one. And the Dees, we'll see, has quite a bit of interesting, like, amber control as well as deck control. And so part of my thought was, because you'll see there's just some like purge stuff in here, and I thought, as it gets to the top table, I'm more likely to have to worry about combos and like crazy swingy cards. Like, I need to worry about hating specific things, probably more so than just steel. So steel is going to get me a good distance, but at some point I'm going to have to deal with weird, crazy stuff. And this will help. That was my theory, and it panned out. So here you go. We have Berserker Slam. We covered that already. That's great. Ganger Chieftain. Shorty. Stiltkin is a 2-power goblin with Skirmish, and after a giant creature is played adjacent to Stiltkin, you ready and fight with Stiltkin. If you play a Ganger Chieftain next to Stiltkin, you ready and fight with Stiltkin twice, which is pretty cool. Tremor is an action that stuns a creature and each of its neighbors. That's real good. Warrior's Refrain. You got to be careful about this because we do have some small creatures, but it's usually worth it. Gain an amber and you stun each creature with power 3 or lower. Flamewake Shaman, 4-power human, with play deal 2 damage to a creature. This card I feel like is better in Worlds Collide, now that you have to worry about things like wards. There's some other reasons why it's good too, but anyway, yeah, I feel like the stock of Flamewake Shaman went up, and now that I don't have Drummerknot to feel bad about not having popped it back with, I don't mind it so much. Gravel Guts is a 5-power giant. After an enemy creature is destroyed fighting Gravel Guts, you give Gravel Guts 2+1 power counters. I don't know that I ever had this pop. I end up using him faster than that, I guess. Okay, and now this is one of my favorite Brobnar cards, and it's a rare, but it worked out really well here. Rock Hurling Giant is a 6-power giant, and during your turn, each time you discard a Brobnar card from your hand, you may deal 4 damage to a creature. And it's real good because it solves the, like, okay, I'm behind, if I'm playing from behind, I need to deal with stuff. Boom, you just can discard a couple cards and deal with them. Now, obviously, you wouldn't want to discard Berserker Slam, probably, because you're going to get better value out of playing it, but occasionally, you're going to get good value out of just discarding a card to hit something for 4 damage and knock it off the board. I love it. I love just the option space that opens up for you. Signal Fire is an artifact with a bonus amber. It has Omni. You sacrifice it, and for the remainder of the turn, friendly Brobnar creatures may fight as though they belong to the active house. Good for Dees turns. Star Alliance turns, you might, if you're lucky and you have good board control, you're able to use the Brobnar creatures anyway because of some of the stuff you'll see coming up. But on Dees turns, we might need it. And sometimes on the Star Alliance turn, we just want to be able to use all the Brobnar. Mega Mog Hunter is an 8-power giant with fight, deal 2 damage to a flank creature. That's great. And then we have the Brew, of course. Mog Hunter's Brew, gain an amber, give a creature 2+1 power counters. I really like using Brew on Stiltkin if I can help it, but you know there are other good targets too, and sometimes stuff in other houses are good targets. So, oops. Yeah, this is a better Brobnar. We have big creatures, but we don't have NARP, and we're okay not having the NARP because we have the big. But this means we aren't saying we can't reap, so we're not taking that option away. The other one, by the way, Breaker Hill also mitigates the NARP a bit. But anyway, yeah, I think we just have a little better options here. And the Signal Fire really opens things up. Alright, Indis Binding Irons, one of my least favorite cards. Your opponent gains 3 chains. I just don't like it. Dendrix, 5 power, your opponent fight, your opponent discards a random card from their hand. It's a demon. Yeah, can be okay. Edoram is a 4 power demon with Reap, destroy a creature of the house with the most creatures in play. We'll come back to this. There's some interesting stuff going on. Festering Touch is an action with a bonus amber. When you play it, you choose up to 2 creatures. You deal 1 damage to each chosen creature. If that creature was already damaged, deal 3 instead. Yeah, this is okay. It's a good way to plink wards off, and if your opponent has some damaged creatures, then you get good value out of it. Otherwise, it's just not bad to get an amber and plink a couple wards off. Imp Spectre, 2 power imp with destroyed, purge a random card from your opponent's hand. That's okay, it's fine. Infernus, this is a great card. It's a 4 power demon with play, purge up to 2 cards from a discard pile. Your opponent loses amber equal to the total amber bonus of the purged cards. I was playing somebody either earlier today or yesterday who just played this so many times along with the Imp Spectre. By the time the game was over, I think I had like 16 cards purged out of my deck. I still managed to win, not with this, but with a different deck, but it was pretty crazy having that much purged. Anyway, yeah, Infernus is great, and because even if you purge your own, your opponent is losing the amber. It's real oppressive. Malithon is a 5 power demon with fight. You may move an enemy creature anywhere in its controller's battle line. Then if it's on a flank, it captures 1 from its own side. It's more amber control. We have Misery Exploit, gain an amber for each damaged enemy creature. Didn't get a lot of value out of that. That's okay. Rot Grub, 1 power beast with play. Your opponent loses 1 and reap Rot Grub. It's an interesting one. Born It, 3 power demon with Reap. Reveal the top 5 cards of a player's deck. Purge a card revealed this way. Shuffle the other revealed cards into that deck. Yeah, if you can keep this on the board, it's real good. And then we have Nefru, who's a 4 power demon with each time a creature is destroyed, its owner gains an amber. So I got into a situation at one point where I was able to, let's see if I remember right, I had board control, I had a lot of these creatures on the board, and I was able to like Reap with Edoram for amber, destroy the Edoram, get another amber off of Nefru, and I got into another situation where I destroyed some of my own stuff, gained the amber, then rammed the Nefru into my opponent's creature, so the Nefru died. And he just didn't see that coming, but I was able to really mitigate the effects. I get maximum value for myself out of Nefru and then deny my opponent the ability to get any value out of it on his turn. Yeah, so that changes the math on the board. Nefru does. And then we have, again, some amber denial in the form of Rot Grub, Malithon, Infernus. It gets pretty crazy. And then if you get to do a Reap with Born It, that can be really oppressive. And if you hit the right thing with Imp Spectre, if you get lucky, that can be pretty good too. And then, let's see. Into Star Alliance, we have Commander Chan. And this is, again, just real good with the Brobnar and Dees. Being able to get those uses of the Brobnar creatures on the Star Alliance turn is real good value. Explorover, 3 power robot with Skirmish, but it can be played as an upgrade, and it gives the creature it's attached to Skirmish. Really nice for some of those Brobnar creatures. Maybe nice for First Officer Frayne, who's a 4-power human with Play Fight Reap. A friendly creature captures one. More Amber control. You know, when you capture onto your Mega Mog Hunter, your opponent is going to take a while to get it back. Lieutenant Karkar is a 5-power alien in hand-to-hand with Taunt and Hazardous 3. And yeah, that's just good board control there. We have Chin Can again. 2 copies here of Stealth Mode, and when it finally got around to the finals, my opponent said that it was this that won both games, and I think the first game I had, I drew them separately but in quick succession, and then in the second game where I beat his reserve deck, I actually drew them both at the same time, and I held one back. I played one, held the other one back, went Star Alliance again the next turn, and it just got in the way of his plans to the point that in the first game he ended up conceding after I had 1 key, and in the second game it was pretty landslidey. But he attributed it to the stealth mode largely. CXO Tabor is a 3-power alien and Kirksix. With Fight Reap, you may play or use 1 non-Star Alliance card this turn. This is real good if you can keep it on the board. Sometimes you can use it like a Chan, and sometimes you can use it like an Ambassador. I mean, you can get that play too if that's what you need. So good stuff there. Is it actually an uncommon? I was thinking it was a rare. I think I've only gotten 1 of these. Yeah, it's an uncommon, not a rare, but there you go. Lave the Land is an action with a bonus amber. When you play it, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck and put them back in any order, then you draw a card. Very nice. Stunner is an upgrade with a bonus amber. Gives the creature Fight Reap. You may stun a creature. Gives us more value for those reaps. And then Dr. Driscoll. Okay, so this is an interesting card. And this is a rare 3-power human scientist with elusive. And action, heal 2 damage from a creature, gain an amber for each damage healed this way. And at first I thought, I don't love healing effects, this is dumb. Until I ended up in situations where I would reap with Commander Chan, fight into something with Rock Hurling Giant, and then heal the Rock Hurling Giant with Driscoll for 2. And I was able to do that over and over again, and that was that felt really good. So actually, I think with Brobnar, Driscoll ends up being a really good card. I don't know how she plays with other setups, but in this context, she was a real star player. Star, because rare. But yeah, very good card here. And then, lastly, we have Frayne's Blaster. And this is another just great card. Upgrade with a bonus amber. Gives the creature it's attached to Fight Reap. You may deal 2 damage to a creature, or attach the blaster to Frayne. And after you attach Frayne's Blaster to Frayne, you move each amber from Frayne to your pool. So if you manage to get like a couple captures with Frayne onto Frayne and then attach the blaster, then you've turned those into steel. It's a little risky. In sealed, though, your opponent maybe doesn't see this coming, so you're able to do that, have them not be too suspicious, and then move those ambers to your pool. Yeah, but anyway, it's interesting. The Brobnar here was, again, good board control. I was able to get repeated good use out of it with the Star Alliance as well, and then have some utility stuff out of the Dees. One of the, I think, the better Dees setups that I've had in Worlds Collide, where I feel like Dees' stock has gone down quite a bit in Worlds Collide compared to, say, Coda especially, but sometimes you get a good one, and this was, I think, one of the good ones. One other really just quick scenario I wanted to walk through, going back to that first deck, because I was thinking it was in the second deck, and then I realized it was in the first. I think it was my 3rd game, which is the last game I won with this deck, got into this just crazy situation where I was way ahead. I thought, okay, I just have this locked. And my opponent started to claw their way back, and it involved doing playing a Crassosaurus, which captured, I think, all my amber. I don't know if they got any of theirs on it, which I then killed with Shorty. They brought it back with Exhume, and and killed the shorty. So at that point, they had the Crassosaurus in play again, and I was not in a position to kill the Crassosaurus. And by the time I noticed them do something interesting, which was they went shadows. They got me off check. They got themselves into check. I think I want to say for the third key. Don't quote me on that. Anyway, they got themselves in a really good situation, and they played out, and they ended their turn. I thought something's not quite right, and I said, "Let me look through your discard pile before you flip it." And sure enough, between what was on the board and what was in the discard pile, I counted 11 Shadows cards. And no, they weren't cheating. They'd held back a Shadows card that I was able to, basically prove at that point. Not prove like I wasn't accusing them of anything, but I knew at that point they had held back a Shadows card and not played it, and it's sealed. What do you think that Shadows card is? Well, of course, it's Too Much to Protect. And so I said, oh, that's very interesting. I'm sure you have Too Much to Protect. I didn't look at them because I wasn't trying to read them, but I was trying to be playful. And so I said, oh, hey, I'm sure you have Too Much to Protect there. And basically, I knew they could steal one and capture one because they had a gang. I don't know if it was Yancey or Chain on the board. They had one of those on the board along with a skeleton key. And I said, and anyway, I very intentionally, I could have killed the Crassosaurus at that point, but knowing they had Too Much to Protect, that would have been handing them the game. So instead, oh yeah, you know what? I think they weren't quite threatening a key yet. So I went to 8, and if I could have gone to 9, I would have gone to 9, but I wouldn't have gone past 9. I went to 8, and I said, okay, you have to play the Too Much to Protect. And again, I wasn't trying to read him or anything, but I said that kind of playfully, and he sat there for like probably a good 3 or 4 minutes thinking, and we were fine on time, so I wasn't worried about time. It wasn't slow play. He was legitimately really trying to think through all of his options. So he took a few minutes to think through it, and then he said, yeah, you're right. He played the Too Much to Protect, stole one, and then captured one. And actually, he didn't even steal one. He played the Too Much to Protect, killed my steel creature, my Chain Gang, with his Yancey Gang, and then captured one, dropping me down to 5. And then immediately after that, I was able to just kill the Crassosaurus and know that he couldn't have the Too Much to Protect, and that won me the game. So a little bit of paying attention, some inference there, some logic was able to help me know what was coming in a way that let me back him into a corner and force him to make a play that was not optimal for him in the long run. But I would have won if he hadn't done that. But if he hadn't played the Too Much to Protect, he was right to play it there. He had no other option. But I was able to back him, to use that information that I inferred to back him into a corner. And I was really proud of that. And I'm not saying that in like a mean way. He was great. He was a great player, and I thought it was a really good game. But it was just one of those times where paying attention put me in a situation where I was able to really back him into a corner and win that way. So anyway, that was really fun. And yeah, I really came to appreciate Breaker Hills a lot more from this deck. And from this deck, I already appreciated Stealth Mode, but really appreciated it more, and came to really appreciate Driscoll in a way that I hadn't before. So all in all, it was really fun, and just great people down there. So great time, and I look forward to playing with them more in the future on future trips. So thanks for going on this journey with me, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and that you'll be getting out there and forging some keys. Have a great day.